have the last 20 years of my life led to this?
Right.
I need to learn how to drive a bus.
If something happens to you that's negative, presume the least amount of error possible and then work downward. Flesh out a vision.
Yes.
Right? But you have to do that in a kind of a detached way. You have to understand that that's a first pass approximation and it's necessary, but you don't want to fall in love with it.
I was a performer. I was performance-based.
That's a puppet. That's like a Pinocchio puppet, right? Performing for the stage.
Yes.
Hi, I'm Elizabeth and welcome back to The Lens. I've just found that there's so much great content out there that I don't know if you guys all know about them, and some of them are not books or movies or plays. Some of them are YouTube videos, podcasts, conferences that have really fantastic sessions. So I want to kind of go through and talk about a podcast that I watched just a couple of days ago from Jordan B. Peterson on YouTube. This was a conversation with the Dallas Jenkins. And so in this first clip, Dallas is going through what was going on in his head when he found out that his film eventually did fail.
So in the midst of the failure, you're wrestling with what caused it. And for me as an analyzer, I analyze well, I solve problems, I wrestle with causes and effects. It's one of the things that I'm fairly good at. So there's the calling.
Yeah, for sure.
There's the calling, there's the spiritual direction that I believe God had given me. Now I'm questioning whether that's real.
Yeah, well, that's the
thing.
thing
And then there's the surface. There's the practical. What mistakes did I make to
well, that's an unpacking of levels, right?
Yes.
I mean, did I fail because I made a strategic error, or did I fail because there's something fundamentally wrong with me at a very deep level? Every time someone who has a proclivity towards depression faces an obstacle or fails, they immediately move from contemplation of a mere strategic error to analysis of a fundamental characterological flaw.
Right.
Now, and so there's actually some rules for this. The rule is that if something happens to you that's negative, you should presume the least amount of error possible and then work downward. It's sort of like the presumption of innocence in the legal realm.
Yes.
Right? You don't want to take yourself apart any more than is necessary.
Sometimes we can become paralyzed in our failures. Instead of trying to understand what happened and kind of move on from it, we just become paralyzed and we don't know what to do next. And failure will always be part of the creative process and the creative industry because art is subjective. It's not like math. Your whole career is hinged on whether the people like the art or not. And that's completely subjective. There is no calculation that you can make that's going to make them like it or not like it. Now, of course, there are techniques. There's a 3-act structure. There's lighting. There's how you can do your dialogue. I mean, there are techniques that you can use, how you hold your brush, the colors that go together. All these things are important. But what Jordan was saying was so important. Going through those levels of analyzing your failures. I hate failure so much. I hate it. And that's why you see so many changes on this channel, because I always am trying to improve and do better and get better, especially when I'm not reaching the targets that I'm trying to reach. But whenever I failed, I always go through, okay, what happened strategically? What can I change? Because everything up in that realm of the least amount of error as possible, everything in that realm is changeable. I can change the lights. I can change the background. I can change the microphone. I can change the camera. I can do all of that. But once it comes down to a question of, should I even be on YouTube? Should I even be talking about these things? Am I in line with the will of God? Things like that. That's when things get a little bit more deep and I have to start restructuring how I'm thinking about my entire life or how I'm thinking about this portion of my life. Am I actually doing the right thing in the right way at the right time? And I feel like for creatives, they can go all the way down to the lowest rung and just say, I'm a failure. God didn't want this for me. I'm totally wrong here. I'm in the wrong place. But that's not the case. Sometimes it's just strategically like there are things going wrong in here. Don't quit. Do not quit. And that's my message here from what Jordan has said. Do not just throw in the towel and quit. Sometimes there are things you can fix. Sometimes it's a marketing issue. Sometimes it's a platform issue. Maybe you're supposed to be on Instagram, but you are trying so hard on YouTube. consider what could be going wrong at the top strategically before you come down to God doesn't want this for me. I heard God wrong. It's not what I should be doing with my life. This is the wrong decision for me altogether. I'm getting out of this. Imagine what God would do with your life if you would not bow to failure, but would yield your entire life, your skills, your talents, your giftings to God and allow Him to help you succeed. Of course, you're going to hold your hand with God and going to work with Him as well, but allow Him to lead you and to help you to accomplish that which He would have you accomplish. Now, the second moment is when Dallas is talking about him trying to find a new direction for his life, or basically just when he decided to yield himself to God, he was pretty much open. Lord, you take the reins, you do what you want to do. I'll just follow wherever you're going and be obedient to whatever you're calling me to do. Now, when he's talking about this, he hits on something, and I loved hearing it, so let's get into it.
Like, I do believe that it's useful for people to flesh out a vision.
Yes.
Right? But you have to do that in a kind of a detached way. You have to understand that that's a first pass approximation and it's necessary, but you don't want to fall in love with it. You don't want to be wedded to it. You don't want to worship it as a final end, let's say. Now, the message delivered from Romania said to you was that your criteria for success was inappropriate. So now you have a different hallmark for success. And one of the proofs that that message struck home and was accurate was that instead of being in desperation as a consequence of the collapse of your vision, you said that perversely even you felt free. And that would also indicate that you were laboring under a burden of success definition that was actually not good for you at all.
I was a performer. I was performance
That's
based.
a puppet. That's like the Pinocchio puppet, right? Performing for the stage.
Yes. But I, in that moment, said, okay, God. I crumple up the 15 pages. I give up even, so that's the past, but I also crumple up the future. Mm-hmm. I don't know what my future is. And I'm okay with that for the first time in my life, because what's more important is that I'm in your will and that I'm not basing my success or failure or my mood, my who I am as a husband and father on how well
your identity.
Thank you. My identity in how people see me.
It's very interesting to me how success stories always start off, the ones that talk about God anyways, they always start off with, I just came to a moment where I came to the end of myself and I had to surrender everything to God. And from that moment, God just steps in and is like, yes. And when you align your definition of success as being in alignment with His will, you realize that everything that you ever did before outside of His will is wasted time. My gosh, there are stories upon stories. Saul is going around and he's persecuting Christians thinking he's doing the will of God. This man is educated. This man is successful. This man is respected. Yet he encounters Jesus and he finds out that everything that he's been doing has been against God. And he turns around as a whole 180. And from then on, his life is a blessing to people of his time and forever. This same man talks about all the things that he was able to do, the privileges that he had, the things that he did in the name of God. And he counts every success that he thought was success as dung, as nothing to be compared to knowing Christ. If you're looking for direction, start in the presence of God, just loving on Him, learning more about Him, going deeper in your understanding of who He is, letting your relationship with Him become more vibrant and more real to you than ever. I promise you, invest your time in God's presence just for the sake of knowing Him because you love Him. I promise you, when it comes to divine leading, you will know. You will know exactly what to do, and knowing what to do because you're following Christ will constantly keep you in that place of success. Being in the center of His will is the most important thing, because we do not perform for an audience of our lovers and our haters. No, we are only here for an audience of one and to fulfill His assignment for us. There are moments in time where you learn some things that will help you conquer greater mountains in your future. Anyway, that's enough for today. That's enough for today. Guys, make sure that you go and check out that podcast. It is absolutely amazing, and I think that it's pretty much timeless. I hope you enjoy it, and I will see you next time in a new video. Bye.